filmmakers, entertainment, and all your listening needs. Listen now to Talk Now Radio, where no topic is taboo.
Hello everyone, welcome to Talk Now Radio, listener-supported radio, where no topic is taboo. Joining me today is going to be Dielle Ciesco, and we're going to be discussing her book, True Voice. If you want to learn more about her, you can go to our website, www.dielleciesco.com, and that's DIELLECIESCO.com, where she has all her information that I don't already have here, which I got a good sized chunk of it here for y'all to read. If y'all are interested in her book, just scroll down below her description, which is below the chat room, and you'll see her link to her book at Amazon. I do ask you people to please don't go straight to Amazon, because then I don't get an affiliate fee for that. And, you know, that support does help me keep the show going on the air. So don't forget to visit my sponsors or hit the donation meter if you get a chance. If y'all want to call in and ask questions, the number is, I got to scroll back up to the top where I have it, 832-632-7904. So, Dielle, how you doing today?
I'm good and happy to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to come on to the show. I forget now, I think I just kind of spotted you on Facebook and noticed you had this here book, sounded kind of interesting, so I, kind of friended you and, contacted you. I'm trying to remember, because so many, guests I get are sent to me from different publishers, and I was trying to remember if you were sent to me by a publisher or not, in other words.
I may have been, I'm not sure. I've been published through John Hunt Publishing.
Okay, yeah, I might have got you through that and then found you on Facebook, because I get a lot of them from, John Hunt Publishing, usually sent to me by Maria,
Maria Berry.
Yeah. So I bet that was the one, since you know her name quite readily. She must be your agent through John Hunt.
Yes, she's my publicist.
All righty. So what I usually like to do to start the show out is have you tell everybody a little something about yourself and, what got you to onto this here particular topic.
Okay. Well, on my own quest to heal myself, I got involved in Toltec shamanism and studied Reiki and alternative forms of healing. And it was because I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue type thing, many years ago. And that started my quest, my deep spiritual quest to know myself better and to heal my body. And what I discovered in working with the Toltec shamanism was that there was a whole lot more to healing than just the body. I had a mental body and an emotional body, which both needed just as much, if not more, healing than my physical body. And so out of my practices with Toltec shamanism and just a natural love that I've always had for singing, I started to understand the power of the voice as a tool for healing. I practiced and learned about vocal toning and just sort of came across different techniques and using the voice kind of by accident and by just wanting to heal myself. So all of those things have come together in the books that I've written and the way that I work with people.
So basically you found out that your voice has an actual healing property that can heal physical ills?
Absolutely. And not just the physical, but in other aspects of the self as well. Our voice it's really a direct link to our spiritual nature. And when it's open, that nature can pour through us and be expressed through us quite freely in all forms of creativity. When it's blocked, then we are unable to fully express our lives. We We are run by fear or belief structures that don't necessarily serve us.
Okay. So now, did this here work with your voice? Did it cure your fibromyalgia?
Well, it was a combination of things that, yes, that helped me overcome, both what was labeled as disease by, the medical establishment, including depression. It wasn't just this one thing. However, what I found was that the voice, for me anyway, was one of the most powerful means of self-healing. So that's why it's kind of become my thrust in my practice to work specifically with the voice.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, if you stop and think about it, what's the voice if not vibration? And what kind of properties could vibration possibly have? Maybe amongst them the ability to transform or shift DNA, maybe on a level that we're not yet fully aware of.
I totally believe that and agree with you there. We're vibrational beings. We're mostly composed of water. Water conducts sound. When we use our voices, we are basically moving and shifting our molecules around, and heavy energies that have been stored in the body can be broken up and shifted. In yoga, they talk about the fifth chakra, the throat center, being the purification center of the body. And just like we have a responsibility to our physical bodies to shower and brush our teeth and, all that kind of thing every day, we have an energetic responsibility to our bodies as well to use the voice to purify our systems energetically.
Yeah, isn't emotion also a vibrational energy and thought as well?
Absolutely, yes, and very strong.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that they're different types of energy though. They each have their own unique signature, and perhaps part of healing really has to deal with it, depending on what your healing is, as to which type of energy would be most effective.
Well, that it could very well be. And in fact, the first book that I wrote, The Unknown Mother, which, the second one came out of that, both books deal with what I call the 10 gates of sound. And so, like you were saying about words and our constructs having energy, it's not just the gates include the vocal channel, the actual physical mechanism of the voice, but it also includes our breath. And the breath alone is an immense healer when we use it consciously. But then letters of the alphabet have a power as well, and our consciousness and use of them impacts our ability to communicate with people and get across our truth, our inner truth. Our words are another gate. And so how we use words in the world, just think about how certain words kind of charge us or trigger us emotionally. When we don't really pay attention to these kinds of things, we're missing out on a very powerful inroads to healing. If we take the time to inventory the words that trigger us and then work with them, we can clean them up so that we're no longer bothered by something like a word.
So let's say basically if you tell somebody to go to hell, you could actually be cursing yourself as much, if not more than them.
Well, yes, you could be. And in the same way, it's like because those words hold an energy so that, and it's going to be different for everybody. One person has a concept of hell that could be totally different from another person's concept of hell. You say hell to one person and they might not even be bothered or fazed by that word in the least. And yet you say it to another and they will feel cursed by that word. It's the power that we give to the word and not the power that's coming at us from the other. Well, maybe it's a little bit of both. So yeah, our speaking more consciously with our words and really being clear on what we want and mean to convey, and remembering to use our words as a force of love and truth is very important.
I can imagine. Now, see, what I'm thinking, if I understand it correctly, and I'm pretty sure you can tell me, when you let something out of your mouth toward another person, it's not you that gives the words the power. It's the person who's receiving it that gives it the power.
Well, it's a little of both, because until we have some kind of an immunity built up, the power of another's words can impact us. So it's a matter of building up an immunity to the words that would ordinarily trigger us, or that, in the Toltec shamanism, they refer to poison arrows, which are things that come at us with the intent to harm us. And if we don't have our immunity built up, then they can penetrate right through. Whereas if we have the immunity, then we have a defense system against them. And really it comes down to self-responsibility. It's not the other person ultimately. They're responsible for what they're doing, yes. But go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking what I'm hearing here, if I understand you correctly, is that a best defense against somebody's toxic words is a high, healthy self-esteem.
Well, sure, that's very true, and but where does the high, healthy self-esteem come from? It comes from a lot of inner work, and a lot of cleaning out of beliefs and thought structures, and working with higher energies that are available to us to help us do the work on multidimensional levels.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. And you learned a lot of this by studying shamanism?
I did. I studied Toltec shamanism in the lineage of Don Miguel Ruiz, who's the author of the Four Agreements and many other wonderful books. And I worked with a lot of his mentor teachers over the years and continue to do so. It's really very much an integral part of my path. And in fact, a shamanic practice known as recapitulation is one that I still use in the transformational voice work I do with people. It's different because I've added elements of movement and vocalization to the practice, which the original practice is just using the breath to take back energy that is stored in our past somewhere, incidents that traumatized us or that left us in fear, where we lost power in our relationships with others or in situations. And we can actually reclaim the energy left there and bring it back into the present moment and channel it in new directions by programming it or reprogramming it. So with the transformational voice work, what I've found is that after doing years of recapitulation, which itself is incredibly powerful, I found myself doing movement and just allowing the body to move in very natural and innate ways in response to the breath that I was doing. And then because, I just have this proclivity for using my voice that by adding vocalization, letting out sounds, very indigenous sounds from my own voice, all of it was working together to really clean out my system.
Well, that would really explain, in my opinion, why you got some people that say, just to give a random example, somebody that is always worried about what somebody else thought until finally one day they've just gotten tired of the low self-esteem from other people by worrying what other people thought, that they would just sit out and say right out loud in a very firm, determined voice, enough is enough. I am no longer going to care what other people think. And many times from that point, they seem to do better. Could it be some kind of a thing inside the way they said the words and the sound of the words that I've had enough, I'm not going to do it no more, could actually change them on the inside, like energize certain chakras or something?
Yes, what you've said is key. It's we can say the words, but if there's no change on the outside, then we know that that we aren't really resonating with the words yet. It's one of the reasons that for a lot of people, affirmations just don't work. And so what we have to do is really align with and have, it's like the entire force of our existence has to get behind the words that we're speaking when we make a declarative statement like that. And when we are behind it with our full being, then the changes do occur and the change is seen. So it's a great example of the power
and determination.
Right. Yes. And it's a really good example of the power of our word.
Okay. Now, do you think that since the power of the voice is so important and so strong, that the music that we choose to listen to can have an emotional and even physical impact on us, maybe?
Absolutely. And, we tend to, at least I know that I had tended to subject myself to lyrics that told me stories about love and life that were really negative, that were from the viewpoint of the victim. And, it was easy for me, at that point of my life to, I'm forgetting the word here, but, indulge in that kind of, idea and storytelling. But what I've discovered in my work is how important the stories that we tell are. And so now I'm very much more cautious about the types of songs that I listen to. And it's the same for all of us. It's not just lyrics, even the vibrational energy of music and how it's composed and who composed it and what their mental state of being was and how that gets channeled through the music. All of that impacts us.
You know what? That makes total sense to me, that if somebody is having deep emotional disturbances, because a lot of artists, they will write songs to express that, to get it out, to vent it. And could be just like sending out an energy beam right out to any listeners, especially ones that are already on that path of starting to feel that way about themselves because of life circumstances anyway, couldn't it?
Yes. And it has either the capacity to harm or heal, depending on the intent of the person writing the music. So if there's a lot of anger and unresolved emotion for the person, that's going to carry through in the music. Whereas if they can use the music that they're writing to come to a resolution within themselves, or even just some awareness or awakening within themselves, then that gets transmuted to the person who's listening. So it can either have a positive or negative effect depending on how it's created.
From listening to you talk and from what I've noticed about music from time to time when I've heard it, it seems to me like there's a direct connection between spirit and sound.
I absolutely agree with that.
And that would explain a whole lot. I mean, like, my kids, they're just like any other young 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds. They like heavy metal sometimes. Boy, they turn that stuff on around me. I can't grab my next thought, and negative and angry emotions start building up, even though they're not saying nothing. It's just the music itself. But it just seems to have that effect on the inside of my mind for some reason.
Yeah, it's fascinating how, there are a couple things about that. One, I remember this experiment that was done with some rats in a maze, and it was done by a high school student, I believe, and I can't remember any more of it, but I do make a reference to it in a book. And they were either playing classical music as the rats tried to make their way through the maze, or they would play some heavy metal music. And the classical music mice made it through the maze in 20 minutes. And do you have any idea what might have happened with the other mice that listened to the rock and roll?
They probably got lost.
they had a lot harder time getting through, and actually they ended up fighting and eating each other. So
that drastic? Wow.
Yes. So I think that everyone has different tastes in music, and so there's nothing. I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with heavy metal, but I think we need to be aware of the impact that music has on us, and that's where we fall short. If we listen to something just because we enjoy it or think we enjoy it or whatever, are we consciously aware of how it might be impacting us? And maybe then we would realize, okay, this is actually not helping me. It's actually agitating me. Or maybe it is helping. Maybe it's helping me release some energy that I'm holding that I otherwise wouldn't be able to release. So, without judging a type of music, we just need to be conscious of whether it's working for us or not, and asking whether it is.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to judge heavy metal. I was more or less referring to its effect on me, because it doesn't, I don't think, have that effect on everybody.
Right, exactly, yeah. But it does on me too, so I have to be careful not to, come across as judgmental. So
I've also noticed that when I watch shows like Star Wars and Babylon 5, they got these musics at the very beginning. Even Star Trek does it. Symphony design songs, but when you hear them, you feel like you're going on a mental level, a spiritual level, going through feeling really victorious after a war of some kind. And I wonder if they do that in advertising deliberately to set a mood for the show, in other words.
Yeah. And they do that in shopping, stores. When you're shopping, they'll be piping in music, and they do it in restaurants and other places. And the thing is that I think there's a lot of, again, it's like this unconsciousness about how music impacts us. And even though they may intend to have us stick around and shop and spend more money by playing certain types of songs, very often it's having the reverse effect. And so it's just a very interesting field for exploration for people to start learning more about how sound and vibration and music impacts us, and whether we're using it the right way or not.
You know what? While you were talking, I looked down because I saw Skype was orange, and Mona Radler, one of the people over at Revolution Radio, had sent me a message. Says urgent declaration of civil war, July 4th, 2014. Urgent, with a link to YouTube. I think we might want to check that out after the show.
Okay.
Don't know what that's all about, but evidently, she says it doesn't look like happy times, but I thought I'd share that for anybody that might want to just, go to Google and type in that title about urgent war into, the search engine over there and see what it's all about. Coming back to the business at hand, however, and I'm sorry for that little side trail thing, kind of got my attention.
Yeah, I understand.
Because I know the person, and I know she's not the kind to just share just anything, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask you also was, do you do actual workshops with people or home classes? Do you have any online workshops or anything like that?
Well, I have done all of those things. I work one-on-one with people and do workshops. And right now I'm on a little bit of a hiatus. I just moved to France in May. And so I haven't established myself as a resident yet, which is going to be happening next month. So once I have that done, I can reestablish my business and start working with my clients again, which has been very difficult for me. But looking forward to doing that some more.
Oh, so you're not actually technically a U.S. citizen?
No, I am a U.S. citizen, but I don't have the right to work in France yet until I get my paperwork.
Oh, okay. You moved to France. I got you.
Exactly.
I was thinking like you moved to America. Okay. I got it backwards. I guess I just jumped to a wrong conclusion. So when you do get yourself settled up there in France, though, you're going to start doing more online and what have you. But in the meantime, let me ask you this. Do you have any more books out besides this one?
Well, yeah, I have The Unknown Mother, A Magical Walk with the Goddess of Sound, which is a fictional book about it's kind of an autobiographical piece. It's about a woman who's looking to find her true voice, and she meets this goddess who takes her through the 10 gates of sound. And the second book is Your True Voice, Tools to Embrace a Fully Expressed Life. And this one is the one that's coming out July 25th. And it is basically all the exercises and techniques that were in The Unknown Mother, but kind of integrated within the story. So it gives people a chance to work through them themselves. And it also contains other information like about my transformational voice work that I've been doing. And so in addition to the 2 books, I have a YouTube channel, and there are some videos there at The Voice of Life on YouTube. And so people can partake of those. And on my website, I have some free MP3s that instruct in vocal toning. So those are all still available, even though I'm not taking clients at the moment.
Well, at least you left something behind for people until you could get back to it.
I'm doing my best.
Sounds like it. Okay. Now, can you tell us a little something about these 10 gates you're referring to?
Yeah, sure. So the physical voice, or the physical mechanism, is one aspect of the 10 gates of sound. It's the first gate. And it has to do with this kind of etheric tube that starts in front of our mouths and moves in through the mouth and down the throat, kind of following the esophageal tube. It passes through the chakra system, and it also breaks in a 90-degree angle up and out the head. So this vocal channel is receiving energy both from the earth through the root system and also from divine energy through our crown, and is feeding through into the area of the throat, which is where we express our thoughts, our ideas, our feelings, our creative ventures. And when this tube is open and clear, that energy is able to flow very freely. But what happens is over the course of our lives, things get stuck within this tube and interfere with the flow of energy. So I like to refer to that the moment when we were kids, when we got this clamp that happened, when we either heard that what we were saying or doing was inappropriate for the situation, we were too loud, we shouldn't be laughing, we shouldn't be crying, we're hurting someone's feelings with our words. We got the message to shut up or something that resulted in the clamping down of this tube. And when the tube is healthy and when we're born, it opens and closes quite freely. When the clamp happens, it gets stuck and it loses its fluidity. And so working through all of the other gates helps to clean out that channel and helps restore the flexibility so that we are able to express ourselves more fluidly and more fearlessly.
Well, it sounds to me like that kind of leads into a bit of a trap. If you think about the fact that, let's say you need for your own healthy reasons, if you got negative things that people have inspired you to want to get off your chest, you don't want to hold them in because it's bad for you, but you don't want to vent it at least right there in front of them because it could be harmful to them. Would you recommend somebody just maybe finding a private room somewhere and venting?
Absolutely, and the thing is, and this is the brilliant thing that I have discovered, is that it doesn't have to be through words. In fact, very often the words complicate everything. The force of the feeling that you have in response to needing to tell somebody off or whatever, that's an energy, and we can deal with it energetically with sound. We don't have to go to a place of language. So especially, with our loved ones, we don't want to insult or injure psychologically. So there are other ways and means of expressing the things that we've held in. Yes, we can find a safe space. We can find someone else to vent with. We can write it down. We can use sound and noises, and allow the body just to naturally express. Like if you think about how animals who are startled, like they'll shake it off. They'll use their body to shake something off. And also animals use just their natural sounds. I mean, they're not speaking words, but when you hear, for instance, a dog barking, you get a sense of some energy being released, and there's some communication there. It's just not on the level of words. Well, human beings can do the same thing. We can bark. We can, make all kinds of sounds with our voice. And in fact, I encourage it in people because it really does release a lot of energy.
Reminds me of a guy I used to know. Every time somebody frustrated him, he'd say something about shoot far and save the filthy rich.
Well, okay, he was using words, but yeah.
Well, yeah, he's using words, but at least he's found a different way to, vent, in other words.
Right.
But yeah, my kids, when they were little, I had 3 boys. I used to try to teach them to be respectful with authority figures, including myself and their mother. And I tell them, look, I know I frustrate you guys, and y'all frustrate me. That's not uncommon. I know sometimes you'd like to strangle me, but it's not respectful to sit there and say these things to my face or to any authority figure's face. You want to be respectful? Tell you what you do. You 2 guys go down to the park and y'all talk about me till your faces turn blue and say all kinds of horrible things. I don't hear about it. You were respectful and you got it off your chest. But that kind of fulfill the bill you're talking about, even though you're using words.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said, wouldn't what I told them to do kind of fulfill what you're talking about, even though they're still using words? It'd be another source that they could try if they just didn't want to make weird sounds.
To vent with friends, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can use somebody, but the thing is, the problem with friends is that they tend to agree with us and they tend to reinforce possibly faulty beliefs that we have. And so it's even better to be able to vent with someone who will allow you to go ahead and vent, but won't buy into your story, because then you get trapped in your story and you think, you believe you're right and the other person's wrong, and that itself is a trap. So it's always good to have somebody who's kind of
I've actually seen that happen before.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I think I kind of interrupted you. You didn't get through all those gates. I think you was just on the first one, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the second one is the breath. And, the breath is our direct link with the divine. In Spiritus is to inspire. We receive our inspiration through our ability to breathe. Once we stop breathing, we are no more. So it's a force of life that is always flowing through us. When we learn to breathe consciously, we awaken so much in us. It's a healing force. The next gate is the gate of letters, and I touched on this briefly earlier in the show. The letters of the alphabet have a power, and they can be programmed. We can decide, for instance, that certain letters resonate with certain energies, and actually they already do. If you think of the letter A, or the sound of ah, and some of the words that start with that sound, amen, alleluia, Allah, a lot of the words that have to do with our divine connection. So that letter A has, it's alpha, it's the beginning of things, it's the origin. That letter carries that energy in any word that we use. So by making ourselves conscious and deciding what energies the letters that we use will hold, we can instill those energies in our words as we speak and share those energies with other people. And it's a very subtle thing, and it happens on a very high level of consciousness and connection. And if we don't practice with it, if we're not aware of it, then it doesn't seem important. But believe it or not, we can totally relearn our ABCs for a whole new level of communication. After that, we have the gate of words, and we talked about how words can trigger us and whatnot. We can also redefine words. So when we discover that a word triggers us, we can decide that it's going to mean something new to us. For instance, I used to have trouble with the word rejection and the whole feeling and energy of rejection and what it meant. And I decided to work with that word and clean it up so that it would mean something totally different to me. And now, instead of it meaning that, that I'm not good enough or that I'm not measuring up, I realize what it means for me is that I am being guided to go another direction in my life. So it's not a personal rejection. It's simply a redirection. And we can do that with any word, where we get an emotional charge with it.
Okay, real quick,
Sure.
Sorry about that. If you pardon another interruption, I just wanted to let you know
problem.
That your voice is kind of breaking up. Are you moving your head away from the microphone sometimes or something?
No, but I'll try to be more still. It could be Skype.
It could be.
Is it better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, I'll try to be more still. Okay. So the next gate after words, it combines everything together in storytelling. And how we tell our stories really has a huge impact on how we define ourselves. So if we're always telling our stories from the viewpoint of the victim and how someone else has hurt us in our lives, it makes it very difficult for us to have any other perspective. So at this gate, we work with rewriting our stories from the perspective of the hero, somebody who comes out on top regardless of the story, someone who manages to triumph or learn lessons that make them stronger in the end. And at that point, we enter into the next gate of listening. And, of course, we can listen on very different levels than just listening with the ears. We can listen with our whole bodies. When we hear things that aren't necessarily true, and we kind of pick up on that we do that through the body. Today I happened to go for a walk along these beautiful fields, and there were a couple of gentlemen it's like the middle of nowhere, and these two gentlemen were coming toward me. And my first thought was, uh-oh. And then I got to a certain closeness. We were maybe, 20 feet away, and I could just listen and sense, it's kind of like animal sense. And I knew that they were okay, that I had nothing to worry about. And we said good day and went on our way. So there are other ways to listen besides just the ear, and we need to start listening more intently and give space for silence so that we can be informed by intelligences that are higher than our own, egoic selves.
Kind of like God's always talking to you. You're just driving a mountain, don't hear him.
Right, exactly, yeah. And so after the gate of listening, we have the gate of vibration, which is all about sound and how it impacts matter. We're all made of sound, and sound is what is, I don't know if you're familiar with cymatics. Have you heard of that line of science?
Well, no, I haven't heard of the word. However, I am aware of the fact that sound actually has the ability to make matter come apart, kind of like if you hit high C, a glass will shatter.
Yes, and it also has the ability to move matter together into geometric shapes and patterns. So our bodies are impacted by sound in that same way. Our molecules are moved together or forced apart according to the things that we are exposed to. So that is another gate. And then when we get past vibration, we move into vocal toning. And in this gate, we're learning to play with the palette of the voice, learning what our voice is capable of, and kind of reclaiming the childlike play that we had when we were kids of using the voice. And then we move into a true voice, which has to do with reclaiming the actual power that is behind the voice. So it's our ability to speak our truth and create fearlessly in the world. And the final gate is the rainbow light, and that has to do with our ability to improvise in the world, and it takes the play a step further. It also has to do with increasing the light that the body is able to hold. So there are practices for doing that as well.
Well, I was listening to you, and I kind of got to thinking about, in the Bible, in Genesis, in the very beginning, God said. Kind of makes you wonder what you're saying about the voice. I mean, he had to keep saying everything into existence.
Right. In the beginning was the Word.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God.
Mm-hmm.
But, back then, as I understand it, the Greeks knew the word as the word logos, in other words. And it wasn't just like the words that we speak when we talk to each other. It was a more spiritual, type of thing that had power. And actually, maybe we all had the same logos in us.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that.
I don't know how I want to go about explaining that. Like I say, it has to do with Greek and their understanding of it. The Greeks, they had so many different words for any one given object. Like they had, I want to say it was 54 words for the word love, so that they could describe brotherly love versus fatherly love versus, intimate love, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of did this with their whole entire language, is what I was given to understand. And this logos is kind of, broke it down into a specific kind of word, in other words.
Okay, yeah.
If I understood it correctly.
Yeah, they were more descriptive than, or, it seems to me like they had more care to understand and discern between two different things, which we've kind of lost. Now we have the one word love, and we use it all the time to say, I love you to the most important person in our lives. And we also say it to say, I love that ice cream, or, I love that song. And, there's no, distinguishing difference in the word. There's maybe a feeling behind it, but the word itself, hasn't been given.
You have to put it in a proper context, or somebody won't understand it. Mm-hmm. And I guess what they were doing was they had a way to get out of context, maybe. But I mean, it does help to, not have as many misunderstandings. I mean, in today's world with English, a person can say any one number of things, and somebody will think they mean something entirely different. It happened to me just yesterday or this morning. I can't remember which, and I can't remember what it was about. But I mean, because it was one of those things where the word sounds the same but spelt different, in other words. Mm-hmm. Now that much I do remember. And sometimes you got the same word has a different meaning entirely.
Right.
And, I think we try to confuse ourselves more than the Greeks did, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, it's getting harder, too, because language isn't serving us like it used to. It's almost like we're changing and the world is changing at a rate so much faster than our language is able to keep pace. that it no longer describes or really gives justice to our experiences. We're all grasping for words to explain what we're going through and feeling and how we're changing, and the language isn't keeping up with that.
Yeah, I'd say you got something on that one there. You hear people all the time having to either repeat themselves or overstate things because they're never really quite sure they got it right the first time. Or they're not sure the person received it right, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, we got about 15 minutes left, and I don't want to, miss a chance to make sure I got you covered. So is there anything else you wanted to mention that I didn't think to bring up yet?
Let's see. I'll mention that, the way that this book, Your True Voice, is different from other books about the voice. It's not, sometimes people think that the voice and finding your voice is about public speaking or is about coming across in a certain acceptable way. And that's not what this work is about at all. It's your true voice, which is, it's discovering, not where your voice fits in terms of a type or a description, but finding the qualities of your voice that make it unique to you. It's about where we're headed in communication. It's not about being perfect, but about self-acceptance and spirit, and using spirit as we communicate. And that is where the magic happens.
Okay. Sounds pretty interesting. I think if you don't mind, though, I'd like to add to that. There are also situations where how you use your voice can also, work as far as how you impress the people around you. A drill instructor, for example, always makes sure he uses a certain amount of authority in his voice so that the recruits around him will, be more apt to respect him and to do what he says, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, the voice is more than one property is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. A lot of different elements.
And even animals. I mean, you tell an animal to, quit chewing up on that pillow and they'll just act like they don't even hear you. You bark it out with authority and they'll run.
Right. Yes, I remember having a client who was, she had a dog who had a lot of anxiety, and we took a walk with the dog one day and just practiced with her commanding the dog in different ways and using the voice in different ways to get him to come to her. It was fascinating because, at certain times she would try it and it just wouldn't happen. And then she'd just get that quality in her voice, and sure enough, the dog would come. So
that is true. I mean, if you want a dog to come to you quicker, you have to have a more coaxing tone in your voice, to be the most effective, I think.
Mm.
But, because a lot of times you got to try to bark and order at a dog to come here, they're going to think they're in trouble and run the other way.
Oh.
But yeah, and it takes practice, and I'm pretty sure it's actually the same way when you're dealing with people one-on-one. I know that somebody used the wrong tone of voice on me, and they'll shut me down in a hurry. Like, who do you think you are?
Right.
So, I think people are perceptive to it.
I'm wondering if you've ever had the experience of meeting someone or talking to someone, and there's something about the quality of their voice that either relaxes you or, it's not so much what they're sharing as the way that they're sharing it. Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, I've met a few people in my time that, their general demeanor, their body language, in combination with their voice and the way that they say things, that just kind of sends a camaraderie of an old buddy that you've been, friends with for a long time, even though you just met them.
Right. And that's another example of the power of the voice. And when we learn to access, the origin point of where that communication is coming from, that's what connects us immediately. It's where the communication is coming from, and not the content of the communication.
Well, that does raise up another question that to me personally, I think is kind of interesting. And that is, you and me have both got the same, pretty much voice equipment inside of us, voice box, larynx, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. So does everybody else, about the same size, same shape. Physically speaking, you could probably line them up on a table and wouldn't see much difference from one to the next. Yet everybody's voice is different, even though everybody's equipment is looks to be the same.
Yes, and aside from like differences in muscle tone and that sort of thing, and how we support ourselves with our breath, because that's going to be different from person to person. But yeah, the voice is like a fingerprint. It's just as unique, and I think that relates again back to this connection that our voice has with the divine. It's the expression through our voice is our unique ray of light that comes through. And that's why, my work is so important to me in getting people to overcome their fears about using their voice or singing or speaking or whatever the fear is. Because I think that every single voice on this earth needs to be heard and its truth. That's part of our healing process as a humanity.
Well, some people, they don't like to sing because they know they don't sound very good, or at least not to them, they don't sound very good. In some cases, to other people, they don't sound good either. But
right?
Singing's not necessarily about how you sound so much as it's a joyful noise that is very nurturing to the soul.
Exactly. And so many people deny themselves that joy because of the feelings they have that they're not, their voice is not good enough.
I mean, I've seen times you can be mad at somebody and going about in the kitchen cooking, doing your daily chore or whatever, and you could start singing, and before you get through with the song, you forgot what you were mad about.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
Just kind of make like a distraction for yourself there.
Mm-hmm. It's a great tool. And it's free.
Alrighty. So, do you have any other books you plan on working on in the near future?
I don't have any next book in the works right now, but I do want to mention that I have some CDs available because I'm also a vocalist. I work with Visionary Music and a group called Shapeshifter, and we have a series of 3 CDs that are called the Transmissions of Light Codes, and you can get those at visionarymusic.net. They are DNA activating music, shamanically composed by a wonderful man named Gary Chambers, and they include vocals by Joanne Chambers and myself that are spontaneous, so it's all improvised and really powerful music. And then I also have a CD out with a group called the Pure Heart Ensemble, and the CD is called Bliss of Being. And it's both composed and improvised pieces that include piano and cello, flute, and crystal bowls.
Okay. And they're all available on your website?
There are links, yes.
Okay. Now, I want to remind everybody once again, if you want to learn more about Dielle Ciesco, go to www.dielleciesco.com. That's DIELLECIESCO. Probably later this evening or tomorrow, I will be moving her off the front page into the archive section of this here site. Her picture, this description, her link to her book is all going to be there from now until as long as I have the website, or however long I'm around, whichever comes first, for y'all to find and come and get it anytime you want it. I'd also like to take a moment to remind everybody to come back and see me Wednesday, July the 9th. I'm going to be interviewing a man named Alan Weisbecker, and we're going to be talking about his book, or actually it's a film called Diary of a Madman, and it's a pretty interesting story, I think. He loads up his dog and he goes on the road with a bunch of files in his laptop that proves that some of these government conspiracies are true, and shows it to various people around the world that are in certain high-ranking positions to see if they'll confess that, yes, the evidence is true, and get some pretty surprising results from these people. But I'm sure he can tell you this a little bit better than I am, because I might be getting mixed up a little bit here. But I just wanted to whet your appetite for that just a little bit. Come see me Wednesday night at 7 right here at www.talknowradio.net. For you folks listening over at YouTube and at Daily Motion, we'd love to have you over here. Membership to this site is free, and it's there to, protect from hackers and spammers and things of that nature. So please come on over, jump in the chat room, and partake in the show. We sure would appreciate it. And with that, I want to ask Dielle, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, I just want to tell people that it's really important to overcome any fear that we have about using the voice, that the voice is your free self-healing tool, and it is extremely powerful and available for any need that you might have.
Okay, that sounds like a winner to me. Also, folks, don't forget, every Thursday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'll be airing over at Revolution Radio at www.freedomslips.com. Would love to have you join me over there. There's a lot of people in that chat room you might want to get to know. And I guess with that one there, folks, we're going to call that quits for today. Dielle, I enjoyed the interview.
Likewise.
Got a open door for you over here. If you ever want to come back, just make sure you stay in touch and let me know when you need to come talk to my listeners.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it too. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. You have a good day. And
you too.
Listeners, y'all have a good day and a good what's left of the weekend. Bye-bye.